In 1950s post-independence India, millions of children were entering classrooms to learn. But the country lacked the basic manufacturing infrastructure to actually supply them with the tools they needed to write. The wealthiest students didn't have this problem. They relied entirely on high-quality, durable pencils imported from Germany and the UK. The average Indian student, on the other hand, had to make do with messy inkpots and reeds. If they could find a local pencil, the wood was Brill and the graphite smeared their hands black. Domestic manufacturing suffered from a severe cultural bias. Made in India was widely viewed as a marker of low quality, and local shopkeepers outright refused to stock domestic stationery. India's educational growth was constrained by two things at once: widespread poverty and a deep psychological dependency on foreign manufacturing that no local company had managed to break. Enter B.J. Sanghvi, often known as Babubai. He was a bright student who had to abandon his own engineering degree because he couldn't afford the fees. But experiencing that struggle firsthand allowed him to see a massive vacuum in the market. Sanghvi and two close friends decided to build a world-class, affordable pencil. The barrier was that India possessed neither the manufacturing technology to produce them, nor the specific raw materials required. They weren't stepping into an existing industry. They had to invent a completely localized supply chain from the ground up. The trio traveled to Germany to study how top-tier pencils were made. They quickly learned that importing standard European raw materials would push their production costs way out of reach for a normal Indian family. The first major hurdle was the wood. The global industry standard was imported cedar, which was far too expensive. They needed a local alternative. After months of trekking through forests and testing domestic timber, they found a match. The wood from local chinar trees, also known as poplar wood, was abundant, lightweight, and sharpened easily without splintering. Next, they tackled the inner core. A good pencil lead requires a highly specific chemical ratio. By working with local researchers, they developed a custom mixture of pure carbon and local clay that wrote smoothly without snapping under pressure. By deconstructing the physical chemistry and anatomy of a standard pencil, they completely bypassed the international supply chain monopolies. But they still lacked the capital to import German machines, so they utilized Jugaad engineering, a resourceful approach to problem solving. They worked directly with local carpenters and mechanics to cobble together custom, albeit rudimentary, manufacturing equipment. These unrefined machines broke down constantly. The relentless troubleshooting and financial stress drove Sanghvi to severe insomnia, requiring medication just to sleep. But they pushed through, and in 1958, they launched the Nataraj 621 HB. The initial launch was an immediate failure. Even though the pencil was durable and affordable, retailers rejected it, unable to look past their deep-seated bias against domestic goods. The founders pivoted entirely. They bypassed the retailers and went straight to schools, handing out free samples to the students. They also included a superior dust-free eraser that left notebooks much cleaner than older products. Once students experienced a dark, smooth pencil that didn't break, they started asking for it by name. This undeniable bottom-up demand forced shopkeepers to capitulate, making Nataraj the top-selling pencil in India by 1970. With the student market secured, they launched the Apsara brand in 1970. This featured a darker, smoother graphite formula designed specifically for professional artists, architects, and designers. Then came 1991. India's economic liberalization meant that massive, heavily funded foreign stationery brands could suddenly flood the domestic market without restriction. This chart shows how Hindustan Pencils reacted. Instead of retreating, they went on the offensive. As foreign competitors arrived in 1991, the company aggressively expanded its portfolio into pens, geometry boxes, and crayons. They also launched a psychological counterattack through television. Instead of just targeting kids, they ran ad campaigns aimed directly at parents, using emotional hooks like promising extra marks for good handwriting. They survived the wave of globalization because they didn't try to outspend international conglomerates. They deepened their cultural grip on the Indian consumer. Decades later, they faced a distinctly modern challenge. In 2013, a law student publicly criticized the company because their crayon-labeled skin color only matched a light skin tone, arguing it promoted racial bias. Hindustan Pencils responded swiftly. They renamed the crayon to Peach, proving they had matured from a stubborn startup into a massive entity capable of listening and adapting to modern social values. Today, the company commands roughly 65% of the Indian-branded stationery market. Every single day, their factories churn out 8 million pencils. By systematically reverse engineering every point of friction, from localizing raw materials to building custom machinery and breaking consumer biases, three friends turned a national scarcity into a 1,200 crore rupee empire that continues to define childhood in India.